Good morning, Uganda. It's time for the agenda. Welcome back from the business desk. My name is Julie F. Nantaba. And on the agenda this morning, we're looking at an update on the upcoming LC1 elections. As it is, 28th July is the opportunity that they set aside as an opportunity for you to queue behind the candidate of your choice as you choose the next LC1 chairperson of your village. Getting that update and giving it to us is the Deputy Spokesperson of the Electoral Commission, that is Paul Bukenya. Be part of the conversation, 0709-602-592, that is by WhatsApp. Ask that question and share your opinion as to how you're finding things at your village. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Julie, and always a pleasure being here at UBC.
Always a pleasure having you.
Yeah, sure.
And you've been sharing a bit of history with myself, but I think it's something that even the fact that I have these questions, even no one watching us has the same questions. Looking at a bit of history, we hear stories of how LC1 chairpersons used to come up. A village sitting, having a meeting, and then they all maybe nominate and choose who is available and is loved by is deemed responsible by the citizens of the village or the residents in that village to be chairman, and just like that, nominations, and just like that, and else one chairperson is elected. At what point does the Electoral Commission come in? At what point does it become so political as it is now? Give us a bit of history, maybe.
Wow. Yeah, the history, the LC1, the leadership at the grassroots that we have right now goes back many years ago. You could go back to 40 years ago with the coming into power of the National Resistance Movement government. One of the systems that was put in place was leadership at the grassroots level. At that time, they were called Resistance Council Committees, RC1 committees. I remember as a very young boy in our village, in Yohana Maria Mzee here in Mengo Chisenyi, where we had, a chairperson elected together with a committee. And actually it used to have 9 members. Now there are 11, of course. So it was a structure that was established to organize at lowest level. And it also progressed to the parish, because we would also have RC2, and then of course go up to RC3. There was no committee at the county, which would be RC4, but at the district level we had the RC5. So there were structures that were used to organize communities, starting at the village level and the parish level. And of course, for those who have gone into the history, it goes back to one of the ways under the 10-point program, you know how the new government brought in structuring and organizing and getting people involved in organizing communities and the rehabilitation of Uganda generally. So of course at that time, organizing the elections was, those elections was done by the NRM Secretariat. It was in place. They are leaders. Some of them are now, retired. Some have passed on, but that's where the elections were organized. They were not the elections we see today, of course. And a village community would sit and identify a person, a responsible person, a leader, a resident, and then entrust them with power or with a responsibility to coordinate, bring back, coordinate and support implementation of government programs. The government was undertaking various programs at that time, just like it is now. There was a time when some essentials were actually distributed at the RC1 level, like sugar, I remember the sugar, collecting the sugar, and Mr. Irumba was a very good leader.
In quotes, the LC comes giving you sugar.
No, it was a government program to ensure families have basic items, and they were distributed at a center. And the distribution center was the RC, and very honest and responsible people. I remember very well how families were identified, how many people do you have, and this worked very well. I remember even as a very young kid, how this was done in my local village, in Yohana Maria Mzee in Mengo Parish here in Kampala. So of course now you say now there's electoral commission coming. The structure was then established, and starting from village, like you said, parish, going on to the local government 3, and then the district. And of course, now at the top we had the NRC, the National Resistance Council, which was the parliament at the time. Because now we did not have the parliament, directly elected members of parliament, though we have them now. So those structures were also used to, as electoral colleges eventually for the elections, expanding the NRC in 1989. I may not have all the details at this moment, but if you look at it, subsequently the NRC, of course, put in place legislation like the Odoki Commission, which drafted the constitution, a draft constitution, leading to establishment of the Interim Electoral Commission, that rather the Commission for Constituent Assembly, which was led by Stephen Akabwai, and the Commission for Constituent Assembly organized the CA, the Constituent Assembly elections. The delegates were elected in 1994 March, and they are the ones who debated the draft constitution, and we adopted a constitution in October 1995, which established the Electoral Commission, 1995 Constitution, Article 60, going 61 and on, stating that there shall be an Electoral Commission, which shall be responsible for organizing, conducting, and supervising regular elections. And RSC elections, of course, also evolved into what we now have as local council. So previously, this is what we called RSC 1, LC 1 now.
Right.
So Resistance Council 1 is what we have as a local council 1, established in the Local Government Act. And all these were results of the 1995 Constitution. The Electoral Commission was established by that Constitution. And in 1997, the Electoral Commission Act was passed by Parliament, establishing a permanent Electoral Commission with the mandate to organize, conduct, and supervise public elections. So LC1 are public elections in the law, and they are organized in accordance with the laws of Uganda, which is why it is not a casual election like some people sometimes say, oh, we'll just wake up and go and line up. No, no, no. There are procedures, guidelines that are strictly in the law, and they follow the norms of elections, which is why we register, which is why we display, which is why we nominate, which is why we have returns, which is why we declare candidates, and even publish the results of the elections for further management by the local government, issuance of stamps, and because those are now leaders who are established by the law. Right. So if I could probably put it like that, that's how the Electoral Commission comes in, established in 1997 by the Electoral Commission Act, and then of course with the responsibility to organize and conduct and supervise all public elections, which include also one elections. So village council elections are as important as any other elections that we are mandated to organize.
Right. When you talk about them being as important, one would then look at the requirements needed for one to contest. Some believe, are of the view that the requirements are quite, they paint the picture that maybe there's a lot of unseriousness that come with them. For example, looking at the fact that, well, as obvious, someone must be 18 years and above, and someone must be a resident in that village. But then the fact that there's no academic qualification tied to how far one should have gone to school, whether they have gone to school, whether they have not gone to school, whether they are, whatever they are anyways, as long as they're 18 years, as long as they are human beings and they're living and they're residents in that village, they have the right to contest. So do you think that this is one of the reasons why people maybe do not give them as much importance as they ought to compared to other public elections?
Well, yeah, it is true that the requirements for contesting in local council and elections have been, of course, laid out, and there is no minimum academic qualification for purposes of nomination. Now, that doesn't mean that you are saying that people to contest in this level of elections do not need to have gotten any skills or any formal academic training. No, 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 it doesn't mean that. It's just a clear statement that there's no minimum academic requirement for purposes of nomination. Now, in our elections, at some structures, at some level, elective positions, presidency, parliament, and district chairperson, we require a minimum academic qualification. That's in the law that governs those elections. And it's advanced level or its equivalent. That's the minimum. When we say there's no minimum, it doesn't mean the law, the framers of the law didn't mean that now this is exclusively for those who have never acquired any formal education or training. No, it was meant to just, you know, remove that requirement and enable people who probably have that and more, or even below that, to participate in the election. It doesn't take away the seriousness. If anything, LC1 is a very, very serious, the LC1 chairperson is a very serious elective position. This is the local leader, the closest leader that a community, a village has. This is if we're to look at its importance, this is the center which coordinates at the lowest level the implementation of government programs, which government programs are very, very, of course, serious. Health, public health, sanitation, environmental issues, security, the local disputes, managing, you know, disputes and complaints, and at that level, kind of a quasi-judicial function, because the LC, and now I was going back to RC because we talked about it, but the LC court can hear and resolve at that level, or some issues, or even escalate them to the next level of arbitration. And that's why these days, with the alternative dispute resolution approach, they will still ask you, have you tried to resolve this at the very lowest level? Have you reported this? It's petty. Not that it is not of consequence, but it could be the kind that you don't need to go straight to court. Or you go to this one, it's a boundary dispute. Clearly, the local leaders can come and you agree and you settle it, instead of going to court, and then you have to go through all these processes, the lawyers and all that. So given its importance then for security, health, now government development programs like PDM, Imyoga, and all these others, civil society, you know, community-based organizations, all the activities require that a person who takes this position of leader has an understanding of how government works and can actually handle the responsibilities that come with this office.
Right.
But as it is, there is no minimum academic qualification. So we've seen LC1 leaders who are highly qualified, who have attained education up to degree level, even above. But we've also seen that there are also other leaders who do not have those qualifications, and they are competent leaders. But also on top of that, the LC1 committee has 11 members. And I think the various roles and the competences and skills of all those members can come as one to help the committee address any challenge that may arise out of, you know, if a leader, for example, is not able to handle a certain level, you know, of engagement.
Right.
But as it is, it's a local council. A local council chairperson is a resident. They know the language of the area. They know the issues of the area. That is already competence, and it's already the spirit in which this is done. This is a person who can address issues at that level.
Yes.
And I think we need to give them that respect.
There's
and not just look at a degree or what. Just a local leader who is a resident of the area, who understands the dynamics of the area, who is able to lead the people, and then you know, working together with the rest of the members.
Right.
That is it. I think it's the law, and we are just implementing that.
You are watching UBC TV. It's the agenda on Good Morning Uganda, and we're looking at the upcoming LC1 elections. Got a bit of a background there to understand what exactly it is and how important it is for you and I to be part of these elections, because at the end of the day, we don't come from bushes to our places of work. We come from homes, we come from villages where we reside and need services to be delivered to us as citizens of Uganda. Be part of the conversation, 0709 602 592. Now, looking at the mandate, of course, the jurisdiction and brackets of the Electoral Commission, there are things supposed to be done. What activities have been carried out? We've seen some of them, the turnout has been quite low. And what activities are remaining up until 28th or 22nd July?
Yeah, we rolled out a roadmap for these elections. These elections are being conducted. We are conducting elections for 2 levels of leadership. We are conducting elections of women committees at the village level. The election of women committees has not been done before, unlike other interest groups that we did, like the youth and persons with disability and older persons. And yet the position of Secretary for Women Affairs is a position on the local government council 1 and progressing upwards up to the district and national actually. So we issued a program where we indicated activities that will be conducted for election of village women councils. Basically, women councils starting from the village up to the national level. And that program is running alongside the activities for conducting elections of village chairpersons. So as you're out there, I think you've been seeing that we've been compiling 2 registers. We compiled registers of all village residents who expressed willingness to participate in this election. That's an exercise that we did between the 6th and the 10th of this month. July. Then we displayed the registers for 2 days in each village. We have 71,214 villages across the country. We mobilized, but we also reached out to our communities, the political parties, to mobilize and participate, because they're the ones who give us candidates.
Right.
And so what we've conducted so far is the registration of village residents in 2 registers: the general register, which is for use during elections of LC1 chairpersons, and then the village women council register, which will be used for election of women councils and committees at the village level. Their election will be on the 23rd of July.
Is it 23rd, not 22nd?
The 23rd of July. So alongside the LC1 chairperson elections, we're also conducting elections for village women committees. And that is an exercise that was concluded. Starting today, we are conducting nomination of candidates for election of village chairpersons. At the same time, we are conducting the nominations for 5 elective positions which form the village women committee. So the village women committees, of course, will progress. We'll also have LC2 or at the parish, then sub-county. We'll also progress up to the district, and then compose the delegates conference for the National Women Council elections, which will be on the 3rd and the 4th of September this year. So the women committee structure is also being constituted from the village to the parish, sub-county, until we get the district delegates, who will then form the National Women Council. Now, since we gave context earlier on, also the village women committees, before it became universal adult suffrage, the village councils, village women committees were used to actually form the electoral college for election of district woman member of parliament.
Interesting.
So previously, it was an electoral college exclusively. The women members of parliament, woman member of parliament, woman representative of parliament was elected in an electoral college. But now the law changed and we're all involved as voters within a particular district. So, but the structure remains, and we have a National Women Council at the apex, just like we have a National Youth Council, just like we have a National Council for Disability, or the National Council for Older Persons. These structures start from the village level. So our nominations are starting today up to the 19th, and then we'll have campaigns starting on the 20th, and then the Women Council elections will be held on the 23rd. Electoral College, only those women who are registered within that village will elect the 5 leaders. And then on the 28th, we'll have elections for village chairperson, where we'll all participate, all of us who registered within that particular village.
Indeed. And my next question there would be on the registrations, especially with the concluded exercise that was last week, for one to be registered at the in Muchitabo Chechalo, at that is the village book, is it?
Yeah.
The village book of residents. That the turnout was moderate, but then when it comes to the display of the register, it has been really low. What do you attribute this, and what lessons has the Electoral Commission learnt from just the concluded exercise between last week and yesterday?
Well, we, of course, we are compiling statistics because the register we use for village council elections is unique. It is called a village residence register, and that is by law, the Local Government Councils Act that establishes the structure for electing the else ones. So what we've done as Electoral Commission, of course, when we launched the program, is to go to the public and say the law is very clear. Turn up and exercise your right to elect your local leaders at the village level. And the law talks about those who are willing to be members of the village council. The village council constitutes of those who have presented themselves as members of that village, and they are residents and they are citizens of Uganda. So that's what we got onto our register over the 5 days last week, from the 6th up to the 10th. And that's the register we displayed from for the 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. We will be looking at the statistics, and because now we have figures, and we will indicate how many have actually expressed willingness to participate in this election. Elections are not compulsory, and the Local Government Act actually makes it even more. It used even more, if I could use the explicit expression, then says willing. It expresses itself as willing to participate in the elections. We can't conscript you. We can't force you. We can't just extract you from the National Voters Register and put you in a village. No, you present yourself. I think the mobilization is done by all of us as stakeholders, the Electoral Commission, and the political parties which have candidates, which the purpose of political parties is to get leadership. One of the reasons why political parties are formed is to, get leadership, get into power. So one of the things we do when we issue a program is to tell political parties that this is the program that we have issued. We work closely with political parties.
Right.
So I hope they've done wonderful mobilization, including compiling a register. Without a register, of course, you can't have a credible election. But that's the register. We'll be sharing more details as because we've closed now the display, and we'll be now sharing the statistics of who has really turned up. Now, typically, most people do not turn up for. We've seen a pattern where people don't turn up much and participate in the display exercise. No, I registered. Why do I need to go? But the display is very important. It is in law. It is to remove doubt. It is to help us confirm the correctness of particulars on our register. So it's important that it is participatory. But sometimes, yes, someone may choose not to go there, and you cannot do so much about it. But we believe that those who have turned up and inspected the register have given us good feedback that, yes, these are the right people who should be there. Or if there is anyone who shouldn't be there, then our teams must have been guided. Or if there is a complaint, because also during display, we can raise a complaint and it is heard and determined. So I think we will give a picture as we close this, because we only closed yesterday.
Right.
But these elections are important and they need our participation. And perhaps that's why we also get an issue. Some people pick interest along the way. When then someone is nominated, they say, oh, by the way, suppose we have elections, I'll come and vote. Then they are not on the register. Now, anyone who is not on the register that we compiled from the 6th to the 10th cannot be nominated as a candidate. They cannot support the nomination of a candidate, and they will not participate in the elections of 28th or even the elections of 23rd. And like we've seen, some people get interest along the way. Like this structure now for women that goes up to the national.
Yes. Someone
along the way says, oh, but there's an election. No, I need to come in at this point. Yeah, no. If you did not start at the grassroots. You cannot join as the election progresses. You cannot join it. And that is voter education that we've been sharing with our stakeholders. But it's a choice. Someone says, no, I think I don't have time for that. Now, if you don't have time for the village level, which directly affects you, which will give you the introductory letter, which will introduce you to agencies, you want a job, you want a recommendation, then I think you would have missed a step. And I encourage people to really participate in these level elections.
Very interesting at that. Now, just to stay a bit with, the genuineness of the lists, the registers rather. I did watch over the news a couple of members on the side of opposition, talking about the fact that when they studied some of the displayed registers, they realized that while, say, between 6th and 10th, maybe say, let's say 70 residents were registered. And then you go back to the register and find that there's 75 as opposed to the 70. Then they wondered, where is the genuineness in that? If at all we know that the last person was the 70th human being, resident, that registered, how come that at the display, now there are 75? How many names, or how are the names added in that moment between the last registration and the mornings of the display? What would you speak into that for purposes of emphasizing and ensuring that the lists indeed are genuine?
The lists that we compiled are genuine. By that, of course, we mean that we registered residents into our books as Electoral Commission, because we've also heard about people who have other books. We don't know those books. What we know is the official book by the Electoral Commission. Even some have party books. They're saying, no, this is our party register, and it's at the village level. And parties have a right to organize membership from the party level.
Right.
So the registers that were compiled had clear guidelines, and at the closure of the compilation, the officer had to sign off and close, because the registration is not continuous. It's not like it is endless. There are clear time frames, and these were gazetted dates. So what we do during display is to receive complaints, if any, including a complaint like that. And there's a complaint resolution mechanism. So if you have a complaint, you register it formally, write to our returning officer. Of course, we have a structure even at the parish level. The parish supervisor can receive that complaint, and they look at it and resolve it. Okay. They even have the commissioners prepared them and given them a responsibility to receive those complaints. And if there is something that requires a higher level, we have a sub-county supervisor. But above all, we have a returning officer who is in charge of elections in that district. So every village is formed within a district or city in which we have returning officers. So a complaint can be raised concerning if you have a reservation, a genuine one, that we think this is not right. You can raise a complaint and bring it to the attention of our supervisors at those levels up to the district. Then it can be heard and resolved. Now the elections are on the 28th. That is for LCF 1 chairpersons, while for women councils they're on the 23rd. So if you have a complaint that if you have any issue arising out of the registration and then the display, you have time to bring it so that we handle it, because this is the register we're going to use for the elections. If you wait for polling day, then we will not be able to entertain that, because now we will be going into the election. But right now there's time. If there is any complaint, anything you're dissatisfied with, and a genuine one, because we also want the processes to go on. Not the politics, because there is now the politics. This is a register, this is the Electoral Commission. You can raise it, and then we address it.
Right. We're having an update on the upcoming LC1 elections, and Mr. Bukenya, allow me get into some of the comments that are coming through from our viewer. Good morning. Why are you stuck in the colonial system, through lining behind on a budget of 56 billions? That's roughly about 400 million per district. Can't that money organize better systems? Or you would have told us to organize ourselves? This is Bwire David in Namayingo, and he goes ahead to say that let's hope this time no convenience for unopposed people like what we saw with the MP's exercise, denying people the right to choose. Maybe, all right, I'll not read the last line, but you say this is Bwire David in Namayingo. Thank you, Bwire David, for being on the show. Always a pleasure having you on board. Hello, this is Salongo James from Kagugube Parish, Zone Chivulu 2. Questions. Can someone stand for a chairperson who is not alive or have any business in the areas? Okay. And only that he voted in the area before. So in other words, the chairperson has voted from that area before, but currently the chairperson is not, I don't know if you meant alive or they are not living in the area and does not have any business or even have any business in those areas. Can someone who's not living in that area or have business in that area contest as a chairperson for that area? Hello UBC, thank you for bringing the game always live. Owili Hans from Kalongo Agago district. Thank you so much for watching. And good morning, UBC. Are there term limits for LC1 chairpersons? This is Philip in Lira. Good morning, Julie. This is Mukisa Pius, youth chairperson, Lugazi Central Division. Let Mr. Bukenya guide us, because a lot of conflicts are now in Lugazi about government workers to contest in these Women Council elections and LC1 elections. The question is, are they qualified? Thank you, those who are already government employees. And finally, good morning, Julie Phillips from Karamoja. I want to defer for the gentleman, what the gentleman is saying about the requirements for LC1s and other councillors. We need certain levels where one is able to read and write. Many a time these LC1 chairpersons are manipulated by their secretaries, and we the elite to forge documents like land grabbing etc. Because the LC1 chairpersons can scrutinize the document, because the LC1 chairperson cannot scrutinize the document, why do we have a school in every parish? What will motivate parents to take children to school if the one who has not stepped in a class is not considered as one to be elected by anybody? There must be a level of qualifications or requirements because we need quality. We may be wondering why problems are happening in villages and it takes time to be reported. This could be one of them. All right, thank you very much for being on the show, dear viewer. Let's get into that feedback with Paul Bukenya as he speaks into all the views that you have thus far shared.
Yeah, thank you, and those are very interesting views and opinions and questions and feedback from our viewers, and I want to thank you for that. Maybe I could look at them starting from the last one,
right.
Try to write them down here. Philip, what we are saying is that actually we encourage people who have formal academic qualifications to contest. Please come out and contest for these elective positions. The Electoral Commission is not the political parties that nominates candidates. We challenge political parties to present suitable candidates. Yeah. There is no minimum academic qualification, but that doesn't mean that you do not consider someone's skills and competences and all that. But as it is, the local government requirement, Local Government Act does not require a minimum. And remember, the word we use is minimum academic qualification. So I don't want to stand here as an official from Electoral Commission and say something that is outside the law that we are implementing. We are saying this elective position, there is no minimum academic qualification. So if you are there and you want to contest and you have all these qualifications, you are allowed to come in. What will not be required of you is a presentation of those documents. But yes, political parties especially, which bring candidates, should consider the functions, the roles of this office, and bring suitable persons. I think that's what I would best comfortably use to describe what the villagers need at this moment. So, Philip, I think that addresses it. But Philip, please come up and contest. Come up and present yourselves, because we have many young people who have now acquired, formal education, and we think the age limit. You know that we do not have an age limit. From the age of 18, you can contest in these elections, and there is no minimum academic requirement. So please, Philip, mobilize other young people like you to come up and contest in these elections. Now, Percy Lugazi talked about government workers. Public servants are barred from contesting in these elections, except if they have resigned their public offices. And a public officer, a government worker, is a person who is working with the government, with the government agency, local government, and draws their salaries from the government, from the consolidated fund. Right. So such a person is not allowed to contest in elections unless if they have resigned their offices. And we issued guidelines, and the guidelines are indicating that you resign 30 days before the nominations. So if there is anyone who wants to contest and they are government workers, and we need to be very specific about a public servant, a public officer, that is someone who is employed by an agency of government, by local government, and who draws their salary from government. And we know that, we know them. So please be careful as you present flag bearers, or as you present yourself, because if it is found that you are a public servant, then of that nomination or your candidature will be, if at all it even passes, because our officers will intercept it as well, you will be challenged. And we have been very clear on that.
Right.
So, yes. So then, Awinyi Nagago, yeah, there is no term limit to this elective position. So as electoral commission, you're not going to ask, when did you, or have you stood before? If someone has, if the people so choose that this is their leader at that level, and they want to give them a position, responsibility again, then that is really the decision of the people in that village. So there's no term limit, and we will not be looking at that when we're conducting nominations starting today.
And just to still stay with the term limits, how long should a term run before the next election?
The term of office under our laws in Uganda is 5 years.
For
but
all
like elective positions,
right.
Public elections. But like there have been issues around organizing and conducting these elections, especially the funding, which has resulted in the elections which were supposed to be organized way back in 2023 were not organized, and government came out and explained the situation. And I think that is how local government has been handling, including giving life to the existing structures, extending their term through the declaration by the minister. Our caller from Kagugu said that their chairperson is not resident. The question was not very clear, but the requirement for nomination as a candidate for chairperson, you must be a resident of the village, you must be registered in the village residence register, you must be a citizen of Uganda, of course. So I think that settles it. Nomination starts today. The persons who are presenting themselves for nomination as chairpersons must be resident in the village where they intend to contest. They must be residents, and the law is very clear on who a resident is, someone who is ordinarily a resident in that area. So we do not have anywhere in our LC guidelines that this is where I work from. No, no, that doesn't arise. The law is, LC1 is a resident-based election, and that's why we have a village residence register. Right. Mr. Bwire was talking about unopposed candidates. We do not know what's going to happen starting today. If in a village someone is, there's only one person who presents themselves for nomination as village chairperson, then at the end of the exercise, which ends on Sunday, we are nominating also even the weekend. Then we will declare that person elected unopposed, yes. And then they will we'll still have the meeting so that the village council approves the members of the council, because he has to nominate other members. Then there was a question of lining up, that why are we still lining up? Lining up is the mode of election for this level of election, and lining up is a way, is a means of, it's one of the methods of voting. You know, there are different ways of voting. We know the secret ballot, which we use a lot in general elections, in public elections, and I think that's what most people prefer. But we also know that lawful methods include raising hands. There are activities where you vote by raising hands. It is an approved way. It is acceptable. There are also voting, there's a voting method where people actually express themselves vocally. People say yes, or others say no. And that is also allowed. But then there's also lining up. Lining up is the method that we use in this election. It was provided for in the law. And the money that was approved was for facilitating this election. Like I said at the beginning of it all, LC1 is organized in accordance with the laws and the norms of elections. There is compilation of a register. There are officials that we pay money every day, allowances. There are registers that were printed. There are forms and documentation that were printed. There are for all the 71,000 villages that we have across the country. There are logistics in these elections. There are allowances in these elections. We are going to pay, people are going to work on the elections on the 23rd. And we also have women councils elections, which are going to go all the way up to the national level. Women's Delegates Conference that will be held on the 3rd and the 4th of September to elect the National Women Council Executive Committee. So this is an election that, a budget that has gone through all the structures of government for consideration, and it is not, it's not a waste, it's not you know, just spending money anyhow. This is a considered one, and it is trimmed to the last, this is the lowest you could go to have these elections organized. And like you know, they've not been organized previously, partly because of funding issues. So I think your concern that lining up should be way cheaper, or we just wake up in the morning and go and join a line. Like I explained way before, these are elections that are in the laws of Uganda. The results are gazetted. The Minister of Local Government takes up these leaders, issues them with the stamps. They are lawful structures of government. They write letters that are accepted in courts of law, letters that are accepted in security matters, introducing you to an agency, and introductory letters. Everything, we know what LC1 does, and LC1 is a legal structure. It is therefore organized in accordance with the laws of Uganda, and that's why there is all these processes, and therefore some money that is spent.
Now our time is fast spent, and we ought to end this conversation as we make way for the sports update. But in closing, what common mistakes should those contesting and are being nominated from now on, what common mistakes should they avoid, just in case their nominations are not nullified?
Yeah, I think the first one is to stop taking LC1 elections casually. There are nomination forms which we are issuing free of charge. Please pick those forms and fill them well, because if you do not fill them well, then you will not be nominated. That means whatever has to be attached, you need to have a proposer and a seconder. You need to comply with all the requirements. Much as there's no minimum academic requirements, there's no nomination fee, but there are other requirements. You must be registered on the village register. Don't just wake up and say, no, people know me, I'm just going to go and get nominated. Then another mistake that people are still holding on to, which we've been talking about, your party register is not the one that we use for these elections. So for those who sat behind and said, I'm on the party register, I think you made a mistake. We're using a register, village residence register, and we want to avoid those who come in and say, no, but I'm on the party register. And that's why we get conflicts, and even chaos can erupt from there. So another one is to assume that I'll wake up on polling day and just walk to a line which is there. No, no, no. In subsequent engagements, I think I'll have opportunity again here. We'll talk about the polling procedures for 28th of July, and you will see that you will not just join a line anyhow. You must have been registered. So I think our guidelines are available. Reach out to us, sub-county supervisors, parish supervisors, and even your district. There's information that will help you meaningfully and lawfully participate in these elections.
All right, thank you very much. That is Paul Bukenya, the Deputy Spokesperson of the Electoral Commission. He's been giving us an update of the upcoming LC1 elections. And allow me close it with this comment that comes in from Bwire David, who says, thank you, sir, for the comprehensive response. You deserve that position.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Ruben is coming up with the sports update. Good morning.
The World Football Spectacle is here!
Football fire! Feel the power!
From the vibrant cities of Canada, the passion of Mexico, and the grand stages of the United States, the FIFA World